Yeah. All right. Wow, all of a sudden I get fine here. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to spring. I guess it's been spring for 10 days. Everyone see the eclipse yesterday or looked right at it? Yeah, pretty cool, right? Awesome. Glad to have everyone here. And I'm sure this will fill in shortly. We've got a great guest. We've got some other people to highlight and recognize. Let's rock and roll. I always, for those that don't know yet or know me well, always start off with a piece on mindset and, coming back to, the Mamba mentality with Kobe Bryant. And I think his passing anniversary was just very recently, right?
It's in December.
Oh, okay.
In January.
Oh, so much for that. For some reason, I thought it was very recently. But I think there's so much, that we can learn from elite athletes and just their mentality and their mindset that we can apply to our own lives and our own businesses. And I'm a huge believer that mindset is 90% of achievement, right? Because how you think and how you perceive challenges dictates how you respond and ultimately dictates your actions. And actions are what move the needle. Actions are what make things happen. Action is where we get results and we get achievement and quite frankly, how we make money. So, and how we impact others. Again, there's so much we can learn from elite athletes. They embrace competition. I think you can be very competitive, and I consider myself very competitive, and be very collaborative. And I'm extremely passionate about collaboration, right? Competitive is really competing with yourself. That's how I view it, right? How do you become the best version of yourself? And collaboration is how can you learn from and elevate others, right? How much can we do together, right? Together, we all accomplish more when you're around other like-minded, high-minded people who are willing to engage and collaborate, right? And that's really the core of the success in this office is how collaborative our culture is and how we learn from and share and do a lot of deals internally. We push each other, we're competitive, and it raises the bar. It's the essence of a high-performing team, right? We hold each other accountable, we motivate each other, we inspire one another, and it brings out the best in everyone. And that is part of having an elite athlete mindset and feeling like you're an underdog. I think part of being an underdog is to take nothing for granted, to stay humble. No matter how successful you are, there's always room for improvement. And I always feel like I'm the underdog. I always feel like I'm way behind. It's funny, I didn't even know this, but Paul had dinner last night with AJ. For those that don't know AJ, he's like our director of operations for all of our offices. And Paul was like, Josh and I went out to dinner. I'm paraphrasing this on Saturday night. And he's like, like I was trying to celebrate this. I don't even know what he was trying to celebrate. And Josh is like, how do we get more? How do we keep moving forward? And so I do think it's important to celebrate and appreciate the achievements along the way. I am always striving for more. And the journey and that process of achievement and improvement is what motivates me. Like I'm not like the destination's great, but I'm not focused on the destination. I'm really focused on the journey of improvement. And the destination sort of takes care of itself. There'll be a lot of destinations. But that's, I think, part of having an underdog mentality and taking nothing for granted and really embracing the process of continuous, never-ending improvement. Measure your activities. I think that's part of keep score. We're big believers in measure the data, understand what's working and what isn't working. If you don't have the objective data in front of you, then you're just going to tell yourself a story that inevitably is not going to be completely accurate. So when you're measuring what you're doing, you're measuring the leading indicators, which are the actions, and the lagging indicators, which are the results, and you're trying to tie the two and see how well connected they are. That's how you can continue to improve at the highest levels. And that's also having that elite athlete sort of mentality, right? Think about if you were watching I always say if you were watching a basketball game or a football game and there was no scoreboard, you'd feel lost. It would not have the same impact. So why are you operating your business that way? Operate your business with a score. Have the key performance indicators right in front of you, very visible at all times, and you can measure how well you're doing. And when you're measuring something, inevitably, you're far more focused on it, and that will help you improve at a more accelerated level. All right, the next slide. Master the fundamentals. Be a doer. Take action. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, right? Mistakes are inevitable. And if you're not making a lot of them, you're not taking enough action, as I always say. But how you respond to the mistakes is so essential. Do you wallow in your sorrows? Do you wallow in the disappointment, or you get back up quickly, learn from what you did? Always ask yourself, how could I have done it better? And then continue to forge forward with more purpose, with more, energy, right? Mistakes. Strive for mastery, knowing you'll never get there. And mastery is a product of being very purposeful and being very consistent, right? Consistency, guys, is where the magic lies. And that's where I always say most people fall short. So whatever you commit to, make sure you can do it with consistency. And, I always say one person's plan is not necessarily another's, because one person may be able to do it on a sustained basis and someone else may not be able to. So understand what you can commit to such that you'll do it on a consistent basis and embrace that. And that will change over time because you will raise the bar. But don't try to do something that you can't commit to on a consistent basis, because that will not lead to great results.
Will also work against you. You start to.
Totally. Thank you. Well said. And effort and resilience trump talent for sure. And it's in the repetition that habits and skills are developed. That's it. That consistency becomes easier. It becomes more automated. You don't have to put as much effort into it. It becomes second nature. That's what a habit is, right? Good habits, great, and bad habits, not so great. So make sure whatever's serving you well, you double down on, you continue to fortify, and whatever is holding you back or causing you to go backward or regress, you're doing something about it. The question is always, what are you going to do about it, right? What action are you going to take to improve? And it is about one's will to never quit. As my son said, it's only failure when you stop trying, right? So that's the key, guys. Like, people talk about failure. I don't ever consider myself failing. I don't always get the outcomes that I intend to have, but as long as I continue to learn and move forward, I'm not failing.
That's almost a guaranteed success. If you just don't give up and you're starting a project, and you're not going to give up, you're going to win. It's going to be successful.
Yep.
And if you do incredibly great for a week or two or a month, and then you stop. I've heard many big agents at conventions say, this new agent came into town. They were doing great marketing. They were doing much better than me. And they said, thank God they stopped. They would have kicked my butt.
Yeah.
They were doing it, but they couldn't, as you were saying, how we were saying, they basically burned themselves out.
Yeah. And just think about it. There's nothing more demoralizing than a extremely resilient adversary.
Yeah.
Right. You may do a little better than them in the moment, but if you know they're never giving up and they're keep coming forward and coming at you, that's can be one of the most demoralizing things imaginable. So resilience and never giving up and never quitting will get you ultimately much further, right? You may lose in the short term, but you will win in the long term. And at the end of the day, nothing phenomenal was ever achieved overnight.
And that hard part is being past human nature of not staying the course.
Yep.
You have to stay the course. And most of us can go 90 days, 60 days, 30 days. Can you go a year?
Yeah.
With consistency. If you can, to have this form, you're going to break through.
And we've heard it so many times by so many of our top producers that they did very little or nothing for their first year or two. They stayed the course, and now some of them are the top producers in this industry. So recognize that. Now, with that said, make sure that even within that first year or two, you're consulting people who are doing it at a high level to make sure that the actions you're taking are effective, right? They could be very effective, but you're just not seeing the results yet, right? It's gradual and then all of a sudden. So recognize that, again, achievement takes time, but you got to be laying and planting the seeds along the way. Because if you're not, then it's never going to reap the reward. And I think that's really important to recognize that. All right, the next slide. Again, it's what I just said. Play the long game with urgency, right? And the urgency piece does not give you an excuse to not take the actions, right? Play the long game. It's not like all of a sudden you're going to fall, you're going to lay in bed and, eventually something's just going to fall in your lap. You got to be out there moving your feet, right? That's the urgency piece, but it does take patience and discipline to ultimately reap the reward, right? A growth mindset, which again is all about effort. I say it to Max all the time. I don't care if you win or lose. All I care about is that you give it your best effort. That's it. And in time, the wins will stack up in your favor. Believe me, you may not win all the time, but if you continue to put forth your best effort, great things will happen in time, right? It is about the aggregate of small, consistent actions compounded over time. That's where greatness comes from. That simple. And again, that can be really challenging. But if you really have that mindset and you embrace the process and you enjoy to some degree the monotony and the tedium, because that can often be the case, but you recognize what it's going to bring to you over time, then you don't view it the same way, right? I know I don't. I do a lot of the same things. I'm extremely habitual, and maybe that can be a little bit boring to other people. I enjoy that rigor and that routine, and I also never lose sight of what it's ultimately going to bring to me because I've watched it happen for me. I've seen it prove itself out. Right. I started in this business 11 years ago. I knew no agents. I knew nothing about this business, and I planted more seeds than anyone else. And then I get to reap the rewards, several years later when, the leads and the people are falling on my lap because of all the seeds I planted and the value I created for others. And I led by example to do that. So it can all be done, but you got to have that foresight. You got to have that discipline. And I always play the long game, and I do it with a lot of urgency. Rest. Whatever your plan is, make sure it's sustainable, which does require rest, reflection, rejuvenation, recuperate, all that stuff. And that's unique to the individual. So have a degree of self-awareness and create a plan that is sustainable for you, right? You can, don't just be a hero in the beginning, be a hero in the end, right? You get a lot of energy over something, a lot of emotion. You start to do something you get excited about, and then it all sizzles out. How often do I see that? All the time. I see certain people show up when they join the office, and I see them come for the first month or two, and then I don't see them again for 9 months, a year, whatever, maybe never again. I watch it all the time, guys. So it is about staying the course. Really, it means a lot, and you got to have conviction and belief in yourself, and continue to do the work. It will come in time. The will of a champion is to lean into challenges. As I always say, and I said it earlier, mistakes are inevitable. It's just about forging forward and using those mistakes as energy to propel you forward, right? I think that's critical. And that's when you see the top elite performers, certainly athletes, when they get defeated, they have a very, very short memory. Right. I really watch that closely. Even little kids, when I'm watching my son play football and the kid throws an interception, and, some kids are like so disappointed and they're afraid to throw again, and others just forget about it instantly. On to the next one. Right. It's important, again, to learn from those mistakes, but you can't wallow in your sorrows and be a victim, or you can choose to if you want to. The better choice is to take personal responsibility and forget about it quickly, learn from it, and just keep moving forward. And that's what great performers and certainly elite athletes do. Comments, questions? Jimmy, come on, give me some feedback.
I mean, I pretty much love everything that you're saying. I've really always resonated with, never, you can't lose it, give up, right? So that's just one thing that always resonated with. Two, one thing that I've been trying to focus on is just really staying in the battle after you get a no, after a no, after a no. I'm just sticking with it, and every no, which I heard you say before, you're closer to a yes, right?
Yeah.
So it's just really keeping that mindset of, okay, one day soon.
Yeah. And look, don't personalize it.
Yes.
Because you don't know what's going on in their world, even if they were rude to you or whatever. That has nothing to do with you because they don't even know you, right? And then the other thing that always goes through my mind is their loss. They don't know what they were missing. Maybe in time they will. And especially if you continue to follow up with them. Again, how many agents did I call for the first time, rejected me time and time again? I continue to persist in a very respectful way. And I eventually met with them, and they ended up joining the office, and it was like one of the best things that ever happened to them. Right. So realize that no, again, is not always a no. Right. And it's how you respond, and don't personalize, and continue to forge forward. And as I said, if you believe in yourself, you just got to walk away and say it's their loss. And in time, hopefully they'll see that. And if not, that's okay.
I take a slightly different, not it's their loss. I actually feel with all my heart that if I can convince them to do business with me, it's going to improve their life. And if I miss it, I'm clearly saying, how can I fine tune the next one? So I'm not really letting it go. It sounds like you're letting it go a little easier. I'm going, I gotta get the next 20 if I lose that one.
Yeah.
You gotta get the next 20.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's like another way of saying though, it's like, how could you do better? Even when you get the win, we talk about this all the time, even when you get the appointment or the win or whatever the win is defined for you as, again, how could you have done better? Because you may have got the win, but you could still improve. And that's what great performers are always doing. How do you become better? The best of the best can always become better.
And I'm gonna stay here and listen to all you guys, but I gotta run to 2 appointments. So I'm gonna miss you.
Thanks, Robert.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other comments or thoughts, guys? Okay. All right, so we are, things are definitely heating up. You can see that this is weekly closings. I'm not gonna go through all the names, but it's a lot of production and things are really kicking up. And again, I always come back to the same thing. There's so many people closing deals and I look at this and I get very motivated and inspired by how it's not just the same people doing the deals. Time and time again, it's a lot of people doing a lot of deals. So that's exciting. Number one, KW office in the state of California out of 105. So awesome. And who's counting?
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
All right, Red Day. So is Shai here who asked me to put this up? Yes. So Red Day is our day of giving back. We're big believers in giving back to the community, coming from contribution. I always say leadership is about giving with no expectation. We are having Red Day on the 5th of, on the 9th of May. I wish we're doing it at the Covenant House. Does anyone know more? Serena, do you
They're
want?
having barbecue. It's gonna be super organized, different activities.
So the Covenant House basically houses.
This is what we did, where we did it last year. Go ahead. Yeah.
They, make sure that they've got housing and education and services for homeless or unhoused
What is that?
youth.
Yeah.
It's red. It's the day we give back and we go to the.
It's the youth that.
Oh, where is it? I don't.
It's on,
Yeah.
it's on Western and like Boulevard,
Yeah.
Hollywood,
It's not
around there.
So look out, put it on your calendars. Look out for more information on, I think we're segregating it into 2 halves of the day, so we can try to get as much participation because there's limitations on how many people can come at once. So we're gonna have like a first half of the day and a second half of the day, and we'll have some overlap. It's a great experience. It's giving back to people that have a little bit less privilege.
Yeah.
And it's just
Really us down there. We get to spend the day meeting the residents, who are basically kids.
Yeah, and it's inside like a couple of them like were interested in real estate. They came to a couple classes. It was really cool. So just encourage a lot of participation in that. And again, it's part of our culture is to give back to the community and very, very inspiring to do that. So thank you for that. Value Squared is this. Yeah, JD, you can stand up too.
So tomorrow from 2 to 10, we're gonna have live Gary Keller. So that'll be happening here.
Wait, 2 to.
Wait, 10 to 2.
I mean, sorry, 10 to 2. Thank you, I'm back. 2 to 10 would be a good one. So 10 a.m., we're gonna start in the small conference room and then we're gonna move into here after the coaching. So come on down. I mean, Gary Keller live, you guys,
Yeah.
amazing.
Why would you not?
Yeah, I mean, Gary Keller's, I would argue, the foremost like real estate guru in the country of the world.
So this is so again, with all the NAR stuff going on, this is all about establishing your value, communicating your value. And what I've gotten out of the past month and a half here is if I'm not getting a listing that I'm going out on the appointment, the seller didn't recognize the value that I'm presenting them. It's like, so if I'm competing with the seller's best friend, I need to do something on my listing appointment that they say, I have to have JJ, I'm calling my best friend and giving them the bad news. Right? So they have to perceive my value. So that's what we all have to work on is our value.
Yep. Your business is dictated by your perceived value, pure and simple, by others. If they don't perceive you have value, you're not communicating it effectively, they're not going to work with you. If you do, they are. Don't overcomplicate it. And this is about how to effectively communicate and deliver value by people who are doing it at the highest levels. Love it. All right, we have our in-house lender, Rocket Mortgage. Ramin is here. Many of you know Ramin. Do you want to come on up here? Sure. These guys are such. $20+ billion publicly traded company. More than anything, the values that this company is about are so in alignment with the values that we really embrace, which is, authenticity, collaboration, personal responsibility, execution, making things happen, communicating. I've been to Detroit twice. I'm going again in 2 weeks for the NFL draft. How do you like that? Yeah.
got you.
They're hosting a big event. These guys are just a true inspiration, and that's the foundation of our partnership with Rocket. They launched this whole local initiative here in Southern California with us. And we're excited to make great things happen with them. The value that Ramin and Rocket offer are second to none. If you haven't got to know Ramin,
Ron's here too, by the way.
Yeah. Ron and Ramin, I really, really encourage you guys to set up an appointment and understand what they can do for you that may very likely surprise you. It's not just the standard traditional lender perspective, which they certainly do very well, but much beyond that, even on your listings and many other things that they do, and the service and value that they provide. And they're making a lot of special accommodations for our agents to create more and more value for you guys. So don't make assumptions, schedule an appointment, get to know Ramin and Ron. They're amazing. We spent a lot of time sort of identifying them, bringing them in, and they are tremendous assets to our office. So with that said,
Thanks,
I'll let you say a couple words.
Yeah, just to mimic what Josh said, and I think this holds true for Ron. Ron, can we hear you talk, buddy?
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. The financing piece, what we do, it's very personal. It's not just about giving your clients the best rate, the best program, the best service. It's really, if we can't figure it out, we personally take that to heart. So we want to figure it out. We want to get you guys paid. We want to take care of your clients. That's what we're here to do. And we've got some awesome programming that Ron's going to talk to you guys about shortly. I just want to give you guys a quick story. This weekend, I got a phone call from one of the leaders, from Paul, regarding a client, a personal friend of his, whose loan was going sour. They were 30 days into an escrow. They were supposed to close today. Actually yesterday. They were supposed to close yesterday. And he hits us up and he's like, can you guys please talk to our clients and figure out what's going on with their loan? And so immediately upon the text message, we already have all hands on deck, ready for a Monday loan approval for these borrowers. So my job now becomes figure out what went wrong, get the borrower on board, provide all the documentation to me so that on Monday morning it's in underwriting and the loan is approved. That way we can get the extension on the escrow and save the deal. That's just how we operate. Now, do we save the deal? No, the borrower doesn't qualify for anything. I mean, I don't know why they would have been in escrow. It just made no sense to me at all. But the point is, we're here to help you guys build your business, and we're here to provide proper guidance, and we're here to vet potential buyers that you or your sellers might be receiving on, so that you don't have to go through stuff like that, so that you have clarity and peace of mind on your transactions. JJ was awesome this weekend. He let me sit in an open house with him. We played a fun little game of guess what everybody does when they walk in. Didn't go so well. I think we offended more people than anything, but it was fun. Janet's going to help me with our open house. We're here for stuff like that for you guys. We're happy to sit with you and help with your open houses. Now, on to some fun news. Ron, please take away and tell them what we're doing, buddy.
Hey guys, thank you for letting us present today. What we wanted to introduce you to is this new initiative that we came up with, Rocket Mortgage, in partnership with Paul and Josh and your office specifically. Because of our partnership, all of you guys, what you can extend to your clients is a great benefit, and it's exclusive just to you. So it's not being marketed to other real estate companies. What we're offering is underwriting and processing. The lender fee is completely waived because of this partnership. As far as their future refinance, so we help them with the purchase, no lender fee, completely waived. In the future, when that same client refinances, again, no lender fee whatsoever. So it's not just for now, it's for the future as well. overnight underwriting approvals for to make stronger offers when you guys are submitting your RPAs. And again, overnight approvals, and this is for you guys. In addition to that, which is really, really important, exclusive pricing to drive down the interest rate, and this is because of the relationship. So we are offering the Keller Williams team quite a bit of opportunities to help their clients move along, save some money, and get exclusive rates that are just not available everywhere else. So we're excited to share that. The other thing that I wanted to share really quick was, and I'll share my screen, thank you for letting me do that, is the cost of waiting analysis. Guys, this is really important. If you see my screen, $1 million property at the moment, the bare minimum rate of appreciation, the forecasted appreciation, is about 5.5% because of supply and demand right now. So when you guys are talking to your clients, like Pinar had a couple of clients that were on the fence, and we were talking to those clients. I met with them face to face. Not only did we get them off the fence, but one of them is in contract right now. Her escrow is live. This was a person not looking to purchase the property at all, and suddenly she sees the math and she jumps on board. So I encourage you guys to show the math. If you look at a 5.5% rate of appreciation, clients purchasing a property for $1 million, they're losing a ton of equity. Waiting 1 year will cost them $64,000. Waiting 6 months will cost them around $32,000 in this scenario. Be aware of the math and use it to your advantage. And then look for opportunities for lead generation as well. One of the things that I found interesting, and I saw this on Facebook, or actually Instagram, was this company was advertising real estate agents going after a specific market niche. Go to this company, learn more about it, spend some money getting educated through them. You don't need to do any of that. But their main focus point was divorce listing agents make a ton of money. If you focus on the market that's in high need right now, which is the population of people who are getting divorces, there is great opportunities for you guys to step in and help people out. If you want ideas of how to market yourselves and get these kind of leads and how to approach it, contact Ramin and I, and we will help you come up with a strategy to go after it. But don't miss these opportunities that are vital to your business. So thank you guys for letting us share.
We get a cost of waiting flyer.
Sure.
Absolutely. So here's the thing about the cost of waiting analysis. So I have invested into it for the entire office. You guys can use these calculators directly. If in the meantime you guys need one off, just contact me and we'll take care of it. What we're trying to get around is the REFA requirement of having you guys have to contribute to it. So let me keep working on that. But in the meantime, you need a specific example. We're more than happy. Ramina and I are more than happy to help you guys calculate that and then put it in a nice little format for your clients. So you just have to let us know.
Yeah, I'm working on an Excel sheet that we can just put in different purchase prices, different appreciation rates, and it'll kind of do that math for you. Working on that.
Like everyone who has a listing and has an open house should have a flyer, with Rocket's, information and their unique value proposition, because that's just great value to anyone who walks into your open house.
Yeah.
So we're going to make it a point to have these one-page flyers accessible and a printed version at the front desk and by their office, which is right here. Right next to Michael's office, right?
Yep.
So just swing by there anytime. Take advantage of this, guys. Like there's so much these guys offer that we're not taking advantage of, and it's not in anyone's best interest.
Thanks, guys. And they're really easy to work with, and we're here all the time. So just reach out anytime you need anything.
And let me just say this: it's like a free refi, guys. People talk about the interest rates. Buy the property now. And then when the interest rates come down, you got no fees associated with refinancing. Come on, there's a great objective.
If you've got a lender you work with, listen, we've got guys in the business that we love. My mentor, like I would hate to compete with them. And if they already have the lenders they're working with, we'll let them know they're getting a great deal as it is. And they're fine.
And look, I'll say to you too, I'll leave it with this. Give these guys a bite at the apple, so to speak. Give them a chance. Look, entertain other lenders, give them a chance to earn your business. And I think you may be extremely pleasantly surprised. They're amazing.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thank you. Michael, our broker of record.
Yeah, I sit outside his office and I'm a big fan of theirs, especially, I listen in on his talks with his clients and he's very good. So, all right, well, NAR, we all know what's happening in July. The world's not ending. We're going to deal with it. What's still not going away though is lawsuits. We're still getting sued for other reasons. So very quickly, it was on a broker call and Kathy Merringer, who's the broker for Compass, had basically the ABCDs of, real estate and trying to avoid litigation. So real quick, I'm just going to tell you, A, assume nothing, assume anything that you hear is not true and don't presume anything is true. So you want to question if your seller, says something, get them to put it in writing and back it up. So don't presume anything is what you read is true. When somebody says, oh, that ADU is legal, you don't know. So you want buyers to do their own research. B, believe no one. So trust and verify. Don't believe what people are telling you are true. It goes back to that. Confirm everything in writing. So back and forth with sellers, with buyers, make sure you have email communication, text communications admissible in a lawsuit if necessary. Words have consequences. So be careful when you're putting something to writing, what you're putting down. If you're not an expert on a field, don't put it down. So, but document everything. And D, disclosure. Document everything. Most lawsuits are based on non-disclosure. So, it's basically the buyers suing the sellers, suing the brokers that they weren't disclosed. So you want to cite the source of information. So if the seller says that the property is 1,400 square feet, where are they getting that information from? You want to cite that. You want to make sure that the buyer is doing all their inspections, use the DIA and disclosure inspection advisory to make sure that the buyers, are understanding all the inspections that they have available to them. It's better to have a buyer do everything and, find everything or find nothing. But, if you're a seller, you have a listing, to have a, zero inspection time or 1 day or 2 days, it's bad for your seller, you tell them. And it's, from a risk management perspective, you want your buyers to be able to fully inspect the property, to their heart's content. So just ABCD's disclosure with the NAR lawsuit. I don't know if you saw recently that the Department of Justice, they're not going away. They reopened up an appeal or, into the antitrust violations that were supposedly put to bed back in 2020 and 2021. Just know that they're still after commissions. They think that the buyers' commissions or the buyers are paying too much in commissions, and they're trying to do everything they can to sort of avert that. I don't know how that's going to work with now that the buyers have to be on the hook for their own commission, because it's going to make it more difficult, I feel, for buyers. But just remember, get used to using those buyer broker agreements. I was just in a mediation for a procuring cause, which we did, we got a little bit, but we would have gotten a lot more if there was a buyer representation agreement used. So just the same way that, you've got to sell to your sellers to get the listing, now you got to sell to your buyers. You got to articulate your value. That word is being used all the time. That's why tomorrow's class with Gary is probably going to, just reinforce that. Understand everything that you do for a listing, you got to do for on the buy side. And as far as moving forward,
Honestly, that's a great opportunity to distinguish yourself, guys. We're in the #1 training company in the country, in the #1 KW office in California. We offer so much. We have the best type trainer on the planet. We have the best protocol. That's advantage of that. Like, this is a great opportunity. Like, this is a good thing, because there's a lot of mediocre agents, to be very frank, and this is a great way to distinguish yourself if you engage and plug in and do the work.
Yeah.
And we offer all of that, so you got no excuse.
You'll hear a lot of noise. There's a lot of different factors going, different organizations competing to this or that. But the bottom line is, things will change. They'll be different, but you just have to evolve. We always did. We did it with COVID. We're going to have to do it again now. In the short term, since things are still the same, the commissions are still in the MLS, but CAR is going to give out forms that you'll be able to add to your listings now, alerting the sellers about the potential where the commission will come out of the MLS. And I keep saying, start using those buyer broker agreements.
Soon enough, you're gonna have no.
You're gonna have,
So it's
yeah, I mean, we have this sort of like learning curve to use it, where, and it's just really important.
And then, to be honest, especially if you're new, like, no other way. So like, start getting in the habit now,
Yeah, just think about it. You meet with your seller, you sign a listing agreement, you meet with a buyer, you find out what they want to do and what their wants, and and you have a buyer representation agreement. And now it's going to be mandatory. So buyers that have bought in the past, they may take some getting used to as well. But I think buyers that have bought have not been living under a rock and seen the news and heard everything, so they know things are changing. So it's a great opportunity to have the conversation.
Thank you, Michael. Awesome.
Josh, may I jump in on that conversation?
I'm sorry?
What?
May I jump in on that conversation?
Sure.
So in regards to everything that's happening with the lawsuit and sellers not wanting to pay commissions, guys, there's an opportunity for you guys to get creative when it comes to the financing. Because you guys can hear me, right?
We can now. Go ahead.
Okay.
You chopped up for a minute.
Oh, so what I was saying was, you guys have an opportunity to get a little bit creative with these buyers. Sellers that don't want to pay, it creates some challenges when it comes to the financing. And one of the worst pills to swallow when you are trying to finance a property, when a client has to pay 1 point to buy down their interest rate, it's a difficult conversation for them to kind of wrap their head around when they need to buy down that rate. And that is based on the loan amount. So if your loan amount is $1 million, that's $10,000 you're paying to buy down the interest rate in some situations. But when you pay 1 point or 2 points on the purchase price, let's say that's $2 million, that could be roughly $20,000, $25,000, and more, depending on what that purchase price is, right? So it's a much, much harder conversation to have them accept. One of the things that I would challenge you guys with is, if there's room in the appraisal of the property, talk to us about getting creative with how to present that RPA. So if you're making an offer for $1 million, but that property will appraise for 1.25, and you can sell that to the seller and say, listen, we'll buy your property for $1 million. We're going to write the contract up for $1,025,000, and you're going to give us the commissions back. And so we'll finance the cost of that, because a lot of people won't have the ability to pay out of pocket a $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 commission check in those closing costs. So talk to us about helping you get creative with that RPA when you're sending it in.
But that's also the conversation you're having with sellers at listing appointments, that your buyers are not going to have the ability. So if you don't, agree or consider at least, adding or paying the buyer broker commission, it's going to restrict the number of buyers you get. So, you'll get to the same place. Don't you think that the sellers are already figuring in their closing costs into the purchase price anyway? So it's there. It's just gonna, as I said, not difficult.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks, Ron. Thanks, Michael. We have a commission structure model. Our goal is to help all of you guys and for you to help yourselves cap, which means then you keep 100% of your commission for the balance of your anniversary year. We're always celebrating our cappers. And in this particular gentleman is part of our ALC, a tremendous contributor and leader in our office, always helping other people. Someone I lean on a lot, has become a good personal friend, Mr. Howie Nickel. Congratulations. Yeah, starting this month. Yeah. There you go. Howie, do you want to share, with this group, you've always got great, words of wisdom and you lead by example. You know, you've been an agent for how long?
17 years, I think.
17 years, okay. Just what, if you reflect back, there's a lot of lessons, but if you were to sort of say what you see as the keys to being successful in this business, if you had to name like three, what would you say?
Yeah, I think one of them, which we talked about earlier, is really the long game. It's when I used to do open houses in the very beginning, people would walk in and whether I asked or not, in my mind, I was thinking, if you're not buying or selling right now, there's no need for me to talk to you, which is completely the wrong attitude to have. I have a new listing that I just signed coming on in about 2 weeks. I met this woman at an open house 7 or 8 years ago. I haven't spoken to her in probably 7 years. However, she said, Howie, I get your emails all the time. And that's why I called. So it's the long game. And sometimes you can plan it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can, have a strategy of like, I wasn't following up with her directly, is my point.
Yeah.
Other than
But you had the drip campaign.
yeah, exactly. And then there are other people like, oh, I met JJ at an open house. He said something about this and that. So I'm going to be conscious about calling JJ and, giving him this info and that. And sometimes that blossoms as well. But it's really just about playing the long game. I think it's also about, as you've said, staying in communication with your people, just because when somebody says, I'm not going to be ready until summertime. What does that mean? Is it June 20th is the start of summer? So if you wait until June 20th to call them, they might say, oh yeah, I just bought something last week. Well, hold on. You said you were ready summertime.
And I'm calling you on the first of.
Exactly. You have to figure out how to do that delicate dance of not bothering them, staying in touch with them, respecting what they say, because you can call on June 20th and they'll say, you know what, I think it's going to be probably fall. But okay, great. I'm still going to be there. I'm going to be like a dog on a bone. Some you're going to win, some you're going to lose. Back to what you said before in the opening. If you're a baseball player and you strike out, fly ball out 7 times out of 10, you're going to Cooperstown. You're going to the Hall of Fame because you're batting 300. So everybody, even the best athletes, the best business people, you're going to make mistakes. You're not going to bat 1,000. You're not going to get every deal that you go after. You have to figure out what did I do wrong. Sometimes it's me. Sometimes there's just nothing I could have done. But you have to be honest with yourself. Like, again, the persistence thing of staying in it is so important. However, you have to be honest with yourself at the same time. You have to look at your numbers. You have to look at the things that you're doing, because you don't want to just, well, Josh said stay in it, and 4 years later, I haven't done a deal, but I'm doing the same thing every day. What's the definition of crazy or
Insanity?
Yeah, you have to kind of have those checks and balances for yourself.
Accountability, personal responsibility.
And make those tweaks and also talk to other people, talk to JJ, talk to Michael. How do you do this? How are you doing that? Because it's easy for us to have our blinders on and think that, oh, this has worked for me, but we're post-COVID, where the writer's strike is over, but Hollywood's not in back to normal. So if your clients are in that field, they're dealing with this or that, divorces, whatever it is, it's not the same as it was certainly last year at this time or pre-COVID. So you have to kind of just always be aware of that things can change, and it's okay to change. It's okay to change back and do what you were doing. If you were doing canceled and expireds like 1.5 years, 2 years ago, they went away. Like they were gone. There were none, because everything was selling quickly.
Yeah.
Now they're back. So it's, I can go back to that. So it's just about kind of knowing what I trying to contradict Paul in his book, or the one, or is that Gary?
The one thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Gary.
Gary, sorry.
Yeah.
It's good to focus on one thing, but if whatever your legion is, have a couple of levers that you're pulling, because one's going to stop. If you're only door knocking and it rains for 3 weeks straight, you're not probably door knocking, you know.
Yeah, you gotta be willing to adapt and pivot and be aware of what's going on. It's a careful balance between being very focused and not being so focused that you're not aware of what's going on around you. I think that's really, and it's hard to strike that balance, but it starts with self-awareness.
And it's the little things. If you haven't read Atomic Habits, after this meeting, just go on Amazon, get Atomic Habits. And it's just about doing the little things again and again and again, and then adding 1% each day. If you're at the gym and you're doing 10 reps, do 11 reps. You do that every day of the week, by the end of the week, by the end of the month, you're gonna look like this guy. Just whatever it is that you're doing, just think from that. So.
Awesome, man.
Congrats, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome.
We are about to introduce our featured guest. I've known this woman for a handful of years. Sort of coincidentally, she was here before I got here, ended up leaving and then came back home, is just full of energy, bright, driven, fearless, which I love because I mean, not afraid to get rejected. And that's so important in this business, is how we said, if you're batting 300, you're in the Hall of Fame. Barbara Isabel, come on up, Barbara. Barbara's also an attorney, and very bright. Do you want to sit there here?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about, let's just take a little background on like how you got into real estate, when that was and why that was. I know it's
Another story.
yeah.
So I got in real estate about 5.5 years ago. So I have a pretty short experience in real estate. My dad was a developer in Spain. So I kind of grew up in the business, but I never really thought about pursuing it myself. The main reason for it was I was raised very conservatively. So my parents wanted me to either be a lawyer or a doctor. That was the two options that I had. So I decided to become a lawyer. That's what I did. And eventually, after I started working for a law firm here in LA in Central City, I hated my life. I hated everything about it. And I realized that there was a ceiling as to how much money I could make in the year since I was getting paid hourly. So, eventually, as I ranked up in the company through, a few months, I was, ranking up pretty quick. I still felt that I wasn't compensated what I deserved. And I started to think about real estate. Why? Because obviously I saw all the reality TV shows and all these things that just didn't fit my lifestyle whatsoever. But I like the idea of, sourcing my own business, having my own clients and running my own business. So that's the reason I got into real estate. At first, when I got into the business, I had a very strong accent. I still do, but not like it's a lot better than it was. I also look very young. So I used to go to my listing appointments and the first question was, how old are you? And obviously, do you know LA? How long have you been in LA? So those are some of the challenges that I encountered when I first started in this business. My first leads were all of them off of Vulcan 7 and Mojo. I'm sure you guys are familiar with those systems. Off of that, I got in my first year, I got 7 listings for a total of about $42 million in real estate.
Wow.
And of those 7 listings, I sold 5. I ended up getting one of those back a year later. From a very interesting couple, Israeli lawyers. So you can imagine they were a little tough. And I was competing against big agents in the business. So, they always asked me, and I always hated the question, like, what is it that makes you different? Why should I hire you? And it's not that I had a straightforward response, but I always, I was very genuine and very passionate about what I do and why I do it. And I think that when they were like, oh, I just had my house on the market for, 6 months at 12 million. This guy's telling me he can get me 13 million. I said, well, what makes you think that he can get you that if you just had it on the market and it's now selling? I said, I'm not writing the check, so I'm not going to tell you exactly what I'm going to sell it for. And I always like giving a range. I felt that giving a range was always a very safe bet. So I think we should go between, 10 and 10 and a half. I would say, let's just go halfway on that. Let's see how it goes. Hopefully I can drive the value up. And, we just need to be very good at talking. That's really all we do. So that's how I started in the business. A few years later, about 2.5 years after that, I started to think about the business differently. So I realized that most of the clients that I work with that were, multi-million-dollar houses, 4, 5, 6 and up, they all own multifamily real estate. And I was like, okay, what is it that they do that I'm not doing it or I can't do. So that was like one of like my biggest motivations. Why am I just selling them one house instead of like being able to, get paid every month? That was pretty much my motivation, not just the money aspect of it, but learning about like what goes into owning multifamily real estate.
And leverage, like how do you work smarter? How do you get one client turned into multiple deals? Because the cost
Yes.
of acquisition of your time and money to get a client is exceptional. So why not turn that into multiple deals if you can?
So eventually I learned about things like depreciation. I learned about cash flow. I learned about refinancing, appreciation, which is something that we all know about, it's pretty steady in LA overall. And I became fascinated with it. I loved it, absolutely loved it. And I felt that I found the one thing that like 99% of agents didn't know. And that's what I decided to target. So I decided to target developers. I decided to target investors. And that's how I started in the development world about just under 3.5 years ago. And since then, I think in just development deals, I probably saw 76 deals just in development, ground up. Some of them are flips. But the best thing about that business is that the more you do it, the more you learn, like with everything else, but it's a very niche market. So when you start learning about all the different city ordinances, when you develop relationships with, the housing department, the city of LA, those things like are extremely valuable to my clients. So right now, as of today, for example, if my clients get, pitched the deal by any other agent, they take a screenshot and they send it to me direct. Like 10 out of 10 times. What do you think this is worth? I look at the deal. I tell them, well, there is an alley, there is no alley. These are the setbacks. These are the things we need to look at. I comp the deal for them. That's literally like 70% of my time. Is comping deals, whether they send them to me or I send it to them. Once that's done, this is how it works. If they got the deal pitched by another agent, once they finish the deal, whether they are remodeling or they are doing a ground up development, I get to list it when it's ready for sale. I don't make money on the way necessarily, but I'm going to get that listing back. So as a result of that, for example, I have 4 listings coming up in the next 2 months. I would say 45 days, for developers work, it's always a little all over the place. But I have so I have 2 duplexes, 6 units, 4 units, and 5 units. So all of that altogether is probably about 15 million in real estate in the next few months. And that's strictly off of building relationship with all these developers. So again, my value proposition was that when I started doing this,
So it's really about becoming, so let me ask you, I'll unpack a bunch of that. How do you, just big picture, how do you like challenges? Like you're obviously not afraid of challenges. You engage, you plug in, you take a lot of initiative. Like when you are confronted with a challenge and someone asks you a challenging question or like, how do you view that? I'm curious, like your mindset toward challenges.
But I think like one of the biggest values that I bring to my client is I'm really a problem solver. I don't think there is ever a problem you can't solve. So right now, literally this morning, they are running into an issue with, other agents who sold them a deal that, I spoke to these agents and I said, hey, let's make a deal. We didn't make a deal. They decided to move forward with it. And now they're having a problem with it. So the way I look at it is there is always a halfway happy. And there really is. Always. Like there is nothing that's like black or white. And before I got into real estate, when I was studying law, I did a lot of like volunteering as a mediator at the courthouses here in LA. So that showed me that people who used to go to small claim courts, meaning like anything under like the $10,000 dispute, they will go there and their mindset was like, I'm not settling. Like I am not making any type of deal here. So you can tell me whatever, 99% of the time they settle. 99% of the time, because everything they want is a chance to be heard. So I feel that when I discovered that, not really that I discovered, but when I realized that that was so powerful, that's what I started doing with my clients. So I let them talk. Listen, sometimes I've been in complicated situations myself, and you just have to suck it up. Like, okay, how am I going to solve this issue? I sold them a property for $1,025,000 like about 14 months ago. We encountered an issue with something that's called SBA. For all of those who are not familiar with that, is something amazing that has changed the landscape of development, and it's really crazy. So basically, like if you're building something on a property in LA, traditionally speaking, everything you looked at was the lot size and the zoning. Right now, with this new SBA law, everything you also have to look at the occupancy history of the property, because that's going to determine how much you can rent the units that you're going to build for. That's the short version of something a lot more complicated. But basically, to put in perspective, if your property has been tenant occupied, there's a very good chance that your property is worth $200,000 less, just as a result of that, if your tenants don't make the income for the zip code, which is crazy to think about. But a lot of things have changed in the development world, so you have to be, obviously, we are learning as we go. Even the housing department, all these phone calls that I have with them, they are like, okay, so let's see, what can we do here to figure out, because you really have to get down to the details, like who lived there, how much money they were making, and a lot of other like tedious work. So I think that, again, don't
It's
be
always
afraid.
coming into every situation, recognizing that there is a solution and taking the initiative to come from curiosity and really dig deeper.
Yeah, and if you don't know, it's better to say, and I do this a lot. Give me 20 minutes. I'm pulling up to my office. I may not be, I may just be driving and I pull up to the side of the street. Give me 20 minutes, I'm pulling up to my office. So many times I'm driving, I pull on the side and I literally grab my laptop and get to it. And then, just again, it's better, don't say something if you're not sure. Because I realized so many times in the past, I used to, yeah, it's this way. And I'm thinking that they're not really listening to what I'm saying. And then like a month later, they're, well, you told me on this phone call. And I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, wow, they were listening. Like I just said it as just to get it out of the way. So it's better to say, give me 20 minutes, I'm pulling up to my office. It sounds really good too. So just say that. Like, don't get caught up in just saying something because you're getting stressed or nervous,
You said that you got 7 listings your first year, sold 5. How did you do that? Like, where did your first one come from?
Both had 7. So my first listing ever was an expired listing. It was on the market for 2.5 years with 5 different agents. It was 27,547 PCH. It was, I remember it clearly, obviously my first deal. It was across from Joffrey's. It was a burned down house with RTI plans, happened to be, development. RTI plans, which means ready to issue permits, meaning like you can break ground the day after you buy it, if everything else is clear. And I sold it it was on the market for, I think the last asking price was 2.5. And I sold it in 42 days, 2.372. Somewhere, one of these weird numbers. But yeah, we sold that one. Then I had another one in Palisades in the Highlands for 4.2 million. That was my second listing. That one.
So
sold
just
well.
cold calling expires.
Yes,
Okay.
that was it.
How long did it take you?
To convert my first lead from the moment I started calling, I would say about 5 months. 5 months to convert my first lead and to actually close it with the escrow and everything from the moment I went full time into it, because everyone, do this part-time. You can't do this part-time. I understand a lot of agents do it. And again, if you can do it, go for it. I couldn't, it wouldn't work for me. Like it was just, I needed to make money. So I had other things that I was doing. But the moment I felt that I was good enough for about 6 to 8 months, I decided to go full into this.
How much time were you spending cold calling at that time? I'm curious, like how many days a
It
week?
was terrified to cold call. Oh my God. I was like, I have a schedule. I wrote it down like when I was studying, for my law school. Like it was literally, I had my schedule 7 a.m. I wake up, I do this. I mean, like halfway through cold calling, I was like so freaked out. It was so bad. I just had to get through it. So I think some days I maybe called for like 6 or 7 hours.
Wow.
Some days I literally called for 2 and I felt like I couldn't do it anymore. And then I would take a break and I start just looking at houses.
Yep.
Just learning about the different areas. Like, again, it's very easy to say, hey, you have to be consistent with it. But I think that until you get that first or second lead, it's very difficult for you to believe in what you're doing. Once that happens, once you get your first and second lead, everything kind of changes. You start to, even then you already feel good about yourself because you know that a lot of agents don't do business. But I would say just be consistent, with it, even if you don't call 7 days a week or 5 days a week, it's a numbers game. So if you feel one day that you can go for it and your mood, your everything is in a good place and you can go for it for 8 hours, go for it. Like there's no, set a schedule.
What motivates you? What drives you when things get tough? Like what propels you? What do you say to yourself internally? Like I think a lot of great question. What conversations are you having with yourself when challenges arise and how do you keep pushing forward?
That's kind of a really personal question in the sense that I think everyone has their own story. Mine is when I moved here to go to law school, I never thought I was going to stay in LA. Like I'm very European, I'm very Spain. So, I love the food, I love the culture, I loved my life there. Like there was no reason for me whatsoever to stay in LA. I had it all figured out there. But my dad passed away, as you know, like a month and a half before I graduated from law school. And I decided that I needed to make up for that moment in my life where, I wasn't there when that happened. And that was one of like my biggest drives. I was like, hey, I'm, all the way on the other side of the world. I wasn't with him when this happened. So let's just give myself an opportunity to see where this goes. I feel like I lost such a big part of my heart that I had my mom, I had my siblings, but I was always like daddy's girl, So I felt like, I needed to make up for it, and I just wanted to give myself that opportunity. So that's why I decided to stay a little longer. Little did I know, I was going to end up obviously in real estate, which I think he would like that. And yeah, that's.
So your dad's a major driving force.
Yeah, and also like the lifestyle that I had growing up with them, I feel like I want to have that same lifestyle. So, it's not a bad thing to say that, the way I grew up, I never really had to worry about, where money came from. I always, it was always there. Like, I went to good schools, I had a house, I turned 18 and my dad, bought me a car. And that was it. That's the way I knew life. So when I moved here and my dad passed away and I told my mom, don't worry, I got myself. I mean, that was really, I'm not going to say it was the worst decision I ever made, but I regret it at first. I was like, why did I say that? Because obviously, I went into debt and I did a lot of things because I didn't want to have to ask my mom for money. So I was like, I got this, don't worry, it's fine. I'm like, oh my God, I took so many jobs. I did so much stuff in between, like walking dogs and nannying and everything in between, having my law degree. Like, I just wanted to figure it out. So
Resilience, though, I mean, that says a lot. Also, obviously, they instilled something, your parents great in you, or even though you came from some means, you have that work ethic and that drive and that resilience, which is, obviously, again, something.
well, nothing is going to be given to us. I feel like even when you're born into a good family and they have means, like I don't know why I always felt that I was never. Not that I didn't deserve it, but that was something that, when my dad passed away, I told my mom, sell everything. Go live your life. Do whatever you want to do. She was like, oh, no, I told her that. I said, I understand what you're saying, but just go live your life. Like, we don't need anything, My birthday today, for those of you.
That's right, yeah, happy birthday. I didn't know that, or.
So, I just turned, I don't know if I should say, I'm in the 30s crisis right now.
Christ.
I think so.
You're over the hill.
I just turned 32, but I was like, when I moved here and I was 24, even then I was like, I told my mom, I was like, don't worry about me. I got myself, we're all grown up. My brother is 2 years younger, my sister is 3 years older. So I was like, we'll figure it out as we go through life. Like, just sell everything and go live life. That was always my mentality. I felt that everything they earned, they just needed to spend it. Like, why are they going to have to pass anything to us? Not that I don't think about the future and, what I want in the future in my life and, for those to come after me. But I'm just saying, I always felt like if you want something in life, you have to go get it. Like, that's the best way so that you don't have to answer to anybody. Like, you can make your own decisions.
Yeah.
So I think that was always like a, motivation for me.
So let me ask you this to change a little. Being a female in sort of the commercial/development world, which I know is fairly rare, how does that impact your business at all? And do you ever feel that way or not? Maybe that's only my perception.
So I'm from Spain. I was born and raised in Spain, but my mom is from Chile. So I have a little bit of hot blood in me. So I'm fire, so I can deal with contractors pretty easily. They don't mind getting in my face, which I don't mind either. Obviously, I don't dress like this when I go to the sites, but yeah, I think it's.
Do you think that gives you to some degree a competitive advantage too? I mean,
Well,
or is that, I mean, I can see it working both ways, but I'm not there.
Well, yes, most people don't expect for me to know what I know or for me to be doing what I'm doing, just,
Yeah.
Because I look young and, my whole presentation, let's put it that way. But obviously I don't go like this when I go to the construction sites. I try to look like a homeless person. Like this is better. Yeah, so it is what it is. But I think it's exciting for a lot of people that I've encountered in the last year or so. A lot of people are getting very excited about having, a young female in this space. I started to get invited to a lot of podcasts. I did one today here at the office. Someone who's like big, I was saying investor, developer. He's raising a lot of money to do great things in real estate. And now I'm trying to focus most of my business into affordable housing, which is also known as impact investing. So I think that's a very good thing to talk about to investors in the States and outside the States. So that's what I'm doing now with fund to raise money for that. So yeah, that's.
I would say, several lessons, like find a niche that you're passionate about and become the expert, right? narrow and deep is, I would say, generally speaking, the key to being very successful in anything. And Barbara has picked a niche and has become an expert. She's taken the initiative to really have knowledge that, quite frankly, her competitors don't have. And I think people recognize that that's a unique value proposition. And then they lean on her and depend on you and trust you to be that solution.
Yeah, that's
you know?
another thing. There is really no competition. And what I mean by that is like, yeah, I mean, the way I looked at this business when I first started, it's like, oh, what if this, girl looks better than me and goes to the house and get the listing? And, we all think about that. I'm sure we do. I mean, at least I did. I was seeing these girls walking out and I'm like, okay, I need those shoes. Like, I didn't know what it was, right?
Yeah.
When I first started in the business. Then I realized that, yes, all of that is great. It's an add-on that you look good and that you're wearing good clothes and that you're doing all that stuff, but that's not the deciding factor. A lot of the people, and I realized through making some mistakes that I was underestimating a lot of my clients. A lot of the people that ended up becoming my clients, not at first, but I underestimated them by like, oh, I look so good today. I was on point, and then they wouldn't give me a listing. And I was like, what happened? And then I realized that there was no value to what I was saying. I'm sure they heard that before. I'm sure they saw better girl. It doesn't matter. It's not about that. Like you have when you know what you're saying and you speak with confidence, very important to speak with confidence. If you're saying something, you better say it with confidence. You don't just say it, whether it's true or not. Okay. At that point, just say it with confidence. So I realized that when I started speaking with confidence and like, again, at this point, having, a record of sales, I think those two things like really helped me significantly when I'm.
And of course, the confidence comes from having tremendous knowledge, and that, and others don't have that level of knowledge typically, and that gives you confidence. So it's earned through the actions that you take and initiative.
Yeah, like don't be scared to learn. Again, my specialty is development, but if you're like trying to target, let's say you're trying to target a neighborhood, like go
Be the
the extra mile.
Yeah.
Like don't just make the phone call of 3-bed, 2-bed, 1,000 square feet. Go the extra mile. Really look at things that no other people would know. Before you go there, not just the school, so this is a good school district, 91 walking score. Okay, like try to really go the extra mile. Get that neighborhood, and learn history about the zip code. Where was it 20 years ago and what it is today?
Yeah.
I do that with development too, because I'm trying, like my clients always ask me the same question. What is the next hot area? Because LA is a very decentralized city.
Yeah.
So, you have so many areas in LA that are like so good right now.
So how do you approach that? So how do you answer that? And what do you do to come up with an answer that you're confident in?
Well, again, if you don't know, say, give me 20 minutes.
Okay.
Put it out to-
Now I know why you're telling me, give me 20 minutes.
I did that. And that's always an answer, but if not, just go in different zip codes and research them. So if you're trying to get a listing, I don't know, so just say North Hollywood. Look at Venice, look at Burbank, look at things that sold literally when you do like a comp, just look at things that sold 5 years ago and today. You can see the aesthetic
trends.
appreciation
Yes.
and growth in everything. So just try to like things that sold in that literally those 5 blocks that only people who have been there for like 10 years may know. Oh, there was this. Oh yeah, I remember that house. You remember that house down the street? Prove that you know. Even if you don't, and you just done, you've done 45 minutes of research, you have to prove to them that you know what you're talking about. I think that's the biggest value proposition.
And
Like, when
take
you
the
say
little extra
something-
step to what you
When
said.
you say something that no other agent has told them, you got it. That's it. I'm sure they heard about how much they can get for the house next door. What about the house that sold 4 years ago? Just always go the extra mile. Like spend an extra, what is it for us, 20 minutes? Do it. Like it's worth it. That's it.
Let me ask you this, and then I'll open up to questions. What does the ideal world from a business perspective look like for you 3 years from now? If you were to put yourself 3 years ahead and reflect back, what are like the 2-3 things that are critically important that happen that are your priorities that you would like to achieve?
I want to make money. A lot more money.
Okay, give us, what does that, mean, if I could put you on the spot?
If I can double my numbers every year, I'm okay with it. Yeah. So I've been doubling my numbers for 5 years. I want to double my numbers.
And then tell us last year, what did you?
Gross?
Yeah.
Should know that.
Go ahead.
400 something,
Okay,
400 something. And I was at the agency last year. So I was giving them 20% of my commissions. So if I would have been here, we don't need to get into, I would have kept another 85.
right, now she is. So 500,000, so your goal is to double that this year, $1 million?
Yeah, well, that was strictly off of commissions. Then I have, as I don't know if I mentioned this, but I have another business where I do land consulting. So that's because obviously develop relationships with a lot of people in this business. I do a lot of consulting for them. So if someone has, and I assigned a client yesterday, this is other realtors that are dealing with developers, but they don't know how to handle the city paperwork. So they hire me to do the paperwork. So I'm charging them, anywhere from like 5 to 10 grand, depending on the deal. And that's just a little extra cash flow, like, I don't know, that business brought me maybe 90,000 last year.
And it's very synergistic with the stuff that you're doing otherwise.
Yes, I mean, I'm gonna do it regardless. If I can do it for one client, I can do it. And it's interesting because a lot of agents, they have to put me in an email with their clients, the ones that are buying. And they don't make me sign, NDAs or non-circumvention agreement. I tell them my word is good. Listen, your client is if your clients ever call me direct, the first person I'm gonna go after that is the agent. Hey, your client just called me, just so you know. I don't need to go around anybody. Like, that's not my business. Relationships matter in this business. If you screw up people, it's gonna come back to you. It will. So it's not about getting that one $20,000 commission. It's better to not do it. Call you and say, listen, this is how do we wanna do it? Your client called me direct, what do you say? You wanna deal with it? Deal with it. You want me to, you know what, deal with it, just give me 50%, or just deal with it and whatever it is. Don't be scared to face the issue. This is not about going around anybody. Especially in development, the world of development is very small in LA.
Yeah.
You
So
will
what
not,
else going for, so
Oh,
make
yeah.
more money. Couple,
Yeah.
yeah, and what else is important to you? Like, what goals do you have for the future?
I wanna buy a lot of real estate, multifamily real estate.
Okay,
Single family houses, the way I look at them right now at my age where I'm at, they're just a liability. They don't bring me anything. It's just expenses, property taxes, insurance, everything. So I just want to buy multifamily real estate. I want to buy a lot of it. I want to build a lot of affordable housing, which I am already. I just started on, a couple of projects. So I want to do affordable housing. I want to do multifamily. I want to keep growing my network and, learning more about the development aspect of it, which, on construction sites, like 4 or 5 times a week, but now actually, getting to a step ahead.
Yeah.
So buying a lot of real estate, making money, and then being healthy. That's it.
love it. One thing, and then I'll open up to questions. I talk about it all the time. We live in a bubble. We live in a very affluent area. And most of your clients either have or would be interested in investment properties. And we're not doing as an effective a job as we can at showing them the opportunities that they have. And gaining the knowledge to do that is only in your best interest and ultimately serves them much more effectively. So really dig into that. And if you don't necessarily yourself have to be the expert, but at least find someone like Barbara, someone else in this office that can help you, and you can get great referrals for that. And then ultimately you're serving your client more effectively. And that's
And they
great
will call
leverage.
you again. They
Absolutely.
will call you.
So there's
You
just
spend
a lot
right
of-
by them, they will call you again.
Totally. Yep. Questions? This is freaking amazing. Pamela, go ahead and then I'll go.
Hi, Pamela Tinsley. When you decided you wanted to go after developers, how did you first approach them?
Like, meaning, how did I find them?
Yep.
I just went to properties that sold near USA the last 3 years, and then I went on title. Passport Pro, I think it's called. Fidelity has one of these title companies that you have your.
Passport, yes, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the one I used. It's like just a website when you can pull title, and I just see who own the title. And more often than not, you're gonna find people who own 3, 4, 5 properties. Then you get the LLC names, you got the Secretary of the State website, get the name of the person first. Let's try to get to them.
Easy.
A lot of them have websites though. A lot of them. Most developers have websites. You can find them on Instagram, DM them. Yeah, most developers have websites with literally their cell phone on. It's no secret. They're really open because they want to do business.
Yep.
Developers have big goals. I want to get to $2,000. I want to get to $5,000, so they're pretty open about their business.
Great question. Great answer.
Yeah.
Love it. Roxanne.
Hi, this land consulting that you do,
Yes,
is it everywhere in Malibu, just all over LA?
anywhere. LA, 40-mile radius. I don't go San Bernardino. I don't go,
Right,
too far, but yeah.
okay.
For me.
Can you tell us a little bit about the ugly, Barbara? Like, what went wrong the first 2 years?
Sounds so good, right?
And who was your mentor? How did you learn this
Oh,
early on?
Self-taught.
I figured, yeah.
Yeah.
So it sounded like,
The first thing I ever did was downloading the zoning map. to understand what zoning even was. Like, I had no idea what it was, R1, R2, R3, RD, RD2, RD15, all of that sounded the same, C1, C2. Then I learned that, for C2s, you can do R for uses, high limitation setbacks.
Law school
Yeah.
teaches you how to figure out.
I was like, your background clearly came into play.
But I wouldn't say that is it.
No, but I mean, you know where to look,
He's a lawyer too.
How do you know?
Yeah, that's where you went.
This
Yeah.
is everything.
You went to Pepperdine.
What's Dick?
Yeah.
He's from Spain.
Ah.
We had a great call with him earlier.
20 years before him. 20 years.
No, but I mean, I will say this, just like Barbara's initiative, her curiosity, her way of thinking, thinking
It was the-
outside the box, I think is clear.
And it was, yes, listen, it was, I don't know what, I would love to know what other like people who are doing multifamily and commercial, like what their motivation was. I would love to know, seriously, like I haven't even looked into it. For me, it was just like knowing that every single client I had, they had proof of funds with over 6 million in the back on multifamily real estate. 20 units, 24 units, 30 units, and I was like, what is it so exciting about owning these apartments that look like shitholes? And it's like, you know what I mean? Like, seriously,
Money.
like.
Passive income, yeah.
Yeah. And again, I'm a big fan, and this is again, personal opinion, I don't care what anybody says, I am a big fan of buying today. Not tomorrow, today, when everybody's like, oh, wait, listen, no. Today is the best time to buy, always. And I don't care about interest rates, there's something called refinancing.
Yeah.
That no matter what, okay, it's gonna be available, and it will happen because these are cycles. So buy today, I can
Yep, I love
send
it.
that message anyway,
Yeah.
tell that to your clients.
Yeah. Yes.
I am too by today. But why did you decide that you want to like just own a lot of multifamilies instead of being a developer?
Well, no, both. I want to be
Okay,
that,
both.
yes, yes,
You want to develop multifamilies
correct,
and own them
yes,
also.
yes, yes. Appreciation, baby. Say it.
In the price range for the apartment houses, which is pretty expensive and then obviously the affluent area, west side. Where would you invest in? I mean, would you invest into other area? You also encourage your investor to invest into the
I really don't encourage,
income property area.
I know a lot of developers who buy in West Side. I wouldn't buy in the West Side. I'm not buying into a 3% cap rate when I can buy a 6% cap rate. It's money talk. It makes,
Neighborhood doesn't matter to you, but look at the cap.
I
And
look,
that's what you come into your client.
yes, yes, definitely. Definitely. If something is cash flowing and you have, a cap rate of 6%, why are you gonna buy into a 3% location? The appreciation is gonna be pretty much the same. If something appreciates 6, 7, 8%, like that's the standard appreciation in LA.
That's what.
Like when I have a lot of, I know a lot of people in LA who their family has buildings and they have had them forever and they are still buying in the West Side into 3% cap rates. And they ask me and I say, well, listen, I'm not the right person to ask. I'm not gonna buy into a 3% cap rate. I just don't want to. If I can buy a 6% brand new construction with a 10-year builder warranty, why would I do that? Like, it just makes no sense. And no matter what, I'm gonna be able to increase those rents, refinance, increase those rates. It's gonna continue to appreciate. Even those buildings, we were selling them for like like the 4 units, the standard duplexes, 2 duplexes, we were selling them for like 2.7, 2.8. Like 4 years ago, now we're selling them for like 3.2, 3.3. And the rents keep going up. So I mean, there is no reason I think there is no, I know some people just one location, a lot of international investors, one location.
I'm in that area only. I'm
Yeah.
looking for.
Especially like a lot of like Chinese investors. I have a few.
Yes.
They also don't know the neighborhoods in the area nearly.
And that's our job.
Yeah,
So why they should buy something else
Yeah.
and do a hybrid.
There you go.
When they do it, they are open to other possibilities. But my goal again, because I'm in both sides of the business, meaning on the retail selling aspect of it and on the development, my goal with clients who, send me proof of funds with 10 million is like, hey, buy this building, let's close this deal, then let's sit and talk about how you can partner with us and build with us. Because, then partnering with us means that we get to do a lot more volume.
Awesome.
Can I ask you a question? How to approach the expired people who convince them to give the listing to you? They may be dissatisfied with the other agent because you see some of the property have been on the market for 360 days. A lot of them, even in Beverly Hills. So how do you convince the buyer the seller to
To list,
list with you? I mean, how do you approach?
you say, right now, it's an interesting question because right now I'm in a different stage in my career because, you know, when they look me up and they see what I've sold and what I'm doing, on its own brings a lot of credibility to what I do. Which obviously I didn't have that, 5 years ago. On top of that, I think it's just, again, what we were discussing before, just talk to them about something they didn't know. About why do you think this is gonna sell for this price? Like, and bring obviously the comps with you, but give them more information that what they are thinking about. Like more information that the average person will give them. I think just going that extra mile always matters to them. Like saying, well, your rents here, like even showing knowledge about like rents and like, a lot of people lease buildings and they have no idea what a cap rate is. And it has happened to me a lot of times. So I mean, we're competing against those people too. So that's a good thing, okay?
Yeah. Knowledge and communicating that knowledge and separating yourself and distinguishing yourself. People want that. How do you, obviously Barbara comes to the table and instills a lot of confidence into her clients, right? And that's what they're looking for. The first person that gets it in passion, which and that's how you build trust, right? They're going to work with the first person that gets in front of them that earns their trust. And trust is earned through passion, through confidence, through knowledge, all of that stuff, through track record.
And I'm very good in person. I'm not so good like, via emails and all this stuff because I get so caught up with my business that, when they're like, oh, send me something in the next hour. I mean, that's just the worst thing they can do to me. Like, so it's just better to like, listen, why don't I come meet you tomorrow? Just first of all, get in their face. Like that's the best thing. There's nothing like face to face. Whether it's good or bad. If you've done something wrong or there is, just get in their face in a good way. Like go there and say, listen, this is where we are at. They can't run away from you or they can they have screamed at me multiple times. Like they can't run from you or like, be like that when you're on their face.
Yeah.
So I would say like, if it's not a good time for you, you can always say, let's meet tomorrow. How about I come to you at 7? Okay, how about 3? Like seeing them consistently, I think also helps.
I can't emphasize that enough, guys.
Yeah.
And Barbara, I live my career that way, by the way. Get face to face.
Yeah, if like they are gonna be somewhere or they are gonna go, oh, I'm gonna go get a manicure at that time. Oh my God, no, wait, where are you going?
Yeah.
Show up. Like seriously.
Very different dynamic when you're face to face than if you're on a
Very
phone or
different.
via email or text.
No matter what, it's like, oh, there is nothing like quality time, in-person time.
Yep.
I think that's completely underestimating what we do.
Love it.
So,
Yes.
And you already know why the expired listing didn't sell, right? Then you approach them.
well, listen, this is my theory. It's always price. Now,
Yeah.
that's rule number 1. Rule number 2 is you have a very
It's priced wrongly, right? That's right.
yes. Number 1, 95% of the time is price wrong. There could be number 2. Number 2 is that you have a very tough seller, which I had in the past, that they no matter what you do or what you say, this is the number I want, and you figure it out how you get it. And I'm like, well, I have, I'm 28,000 under what you want. Like, I will even lower my commission. Let's cut the difference to 7,000. They wouldn't do it.
So it's managing expectations for sure.
What do you walk away?
But at that point, what am I gonna do? Again, there is everything in this business, but you have some tough clients.
Yep.
You have some tough clients.
What if your like main obstacles was like you said, like being young and not being in LA that long? How did you get over that?
See, yes, getting on the phone really helped me. Like getting on the phone because like I have a strong accent, but my accent was stronger back then. Like some people were like, wait, what? And I speak very fast too. So I went through a lot of stuff, like, but you just have to build up your confidence. No one can help you build your confidence. You have to build it yourself. Like for real. Like get on the phone or, watch shows, like do whatever you need to do to get there. And again, knowledge, like there is nothing like knowledge. Like if you are like, trying to target a couple areas, just like really get to know them, drive them, grab a coffee, okay, and drive the area. The things, take pictures, familiarize yourself with it. I've done that a million times. I do that still. I still do it a lot.
Action. That's what she's done. Action builds confidence. Action builds.
Yeah, they send me.
Action,
They could send you a property. Like I got one this morning near like Montebello. They were trying to sell to, one of my clients off market. They sent me the property. What do you think? I looked at it. I looked at Google Maps. I looked at a few things. what am I gonna do? I'm gonna drive it tomorrow because even though I don't like the deal, it doesn't make sense at that price. I told them to offer 75,000 less. I will still drive it. I know I already looked at the comps. I know it's a shitty area, but let me drive it. Let me see if there is anything interesting going on there. You know, why not? Like, we are realtors. Like, we set up our own schedule. Like, we can do whatever we want every day.
And there's a lot, to Barbara's point, that you cannot see online. Sorry, I mean, knowing the neighborhoods, driving the neighborhoods, interact, there's just, that's where the value.
I got a call this morning from another agent telling me, hey, how can I see if the lot is flat? And I go, you drive it.
There you go.
And he goes, oh. I was like, well, yeah, drive it.
Yeah, this is not for the lazy guys. It's a contact sport, as I continue.
But
to
it's
say.
get to know your area, drive it with a coffee, that takes nothing. Go the extra mile in learning about what you're trying to get. And yeah, just provide to your clients with something that no one else can. That's it.
And take the extra steps, which is
Yeah.
clearly what Barbara does. Like, and you do that consistently over time and you really distinguish.
And my last piece of advice, which I think is very important to say because I learned this the hard way, okay? We're going back to what Michael was saying earlier. Don't assume anything. Okay, I've done favors for agents who had to screw me over big time. They've made 180,000 on a deal and I didn't even get a cent after helping them get the deal through. So, you know, we could be kind, but let's not be stupid. That we're running a business, okay? We are not a nonprofit. So if someone wants your help, say, hey, okay, that's great. Do you, okay, I'm not gonna look at what you make. I don't care what anybody else makes, but I think, you know, if I'm gonna be really helping you with this, how do you feel about a couple grand, $5,000? Are you okay with throwing me something? Don't care to us because they're calling you to ask you for your time. So like, be very mindful about that.
Know your value, right? And
Yeah,
create boundaries
absolutely.
and set standards, you know, and
Because otherwise, yeah, nothing is gonna come your way like that. Like, just a lot of people don't do that naturally, so.
yeah,
Did it right.
yeah, get it in writing too. Yeah. Last question, then we're.
Have you ever been successful selling your house that was expired, this thing? But you didn't change the price much, but you changed the way the house looked. And that's what sold it. Successful. You know, put like high, really nice furniture on it and interior design.
There was one that we listed it 20,000 under what it was listed at originally. And we reassessed the house and we ended up getting more than what they had it before. We ended up going 10,000 what they had before.
Changed the look.
Yes, yes, but I also had him do work. They had an ADU and it was like halfway
Who paid for it? The change.
there. Back
How
then,
did you convince?
back then I was broke.
I
I
know.
couldn't afford it.
So
So it was like, it's 5,000. I couldn't even do that. No.
so the seller did it, right? You,
I had to convince him. I said, listen, if every, he didn't want to do it. So what I did, I said, we close the sale. But when it went, sorry, when we close the sale, I will give you half of that money. That's it. Show confidence. And then I actually did give him 2,500.
Yes, I.
Making 11,000 on that. deal.
Staging and photos and whatever definitely matters.
we don't really have anybody to help us with staging.
Oh, we do. We do.
You do?
Yep.
Are you gonna be in this office, Barbara? Are you?
She is.
You're here?
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess you're waiting for
She's waiting for her.
I'm bouncing around different offices.
No.
That's what
She's gonna be teaching development class.
Oh, yeah, how to find it right. May have
Okay.
Today is Barbara's birthday.
Yes.
Party.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.